Welcome back to the elevator of dreams. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and relax. We are descending to floor 3, a place where time has not passed and perhaps never began. The doors open slowly. The sound of rain fills the air, as if each drop has been falling for decades. Ahead of you, an old hallway. The wallpaper, faded and torn in places, seems suspended in time, as if it had witnessed something and chosen never to forget. The smell is sweet and musty, a mix of damp wood and old memories. There is silence, but it is not the kind of silence that brings peace. It is dense, heavy, as if the air itself is watching you walk. Each step echoes, and the sound returns, slower, as if the floor is repeating its movements with a delay. There is something wrong here, something that cannot be explained, only felt. And even without seeing anyone, you feel like you are being watched, as if this part of the building is still alive, caught between a sigh and a secret. A place where the clock stopped and never started again. The key turns with difficulty. It's cold, as if it's been forgotten in that lock for decades. You feel the resistance of rust, the dry click of metal giving way to the past. A soft crack echoes, muffled by the steady rain outside, and then silence, but not an ordinary silence. It's a kind of suspended pause, as if the world has held its breath, as if something inside is listening, waiting, even if still. The handle gives way slowly. The wood of the door groans, and the sound it makes isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's as if the house, by opening itself, is confessing that it wasn't made for this. That opening the doors brings back something that would rather stay asleep. You cross the threshold with hesitant steps. The floor creaks slightly beneath your feet, but not in a threatening way. It seems almost sensitive, as if it senses your presence. The air is thick. There is a smell of something old, mixed with a faint aroma of coffee that, for some reason, should no longer be there. In front of you, the scene is almost absurd. Plates are still on the kitchen table, delicate china, decorated with gold borders. There is a teapot with dried remnants of coffee in the bottom, as if it had been served recently, and at the same time half a century ago. Next to it, a napkin stained with lipstick. Red, bright, untouched. The newspaper on the table is folded. Perfectly, the date written in large letters. Saturday, November 6th, 1971. You don't remember this date, but something about it makes your stomach turn, as if a warning had gone unheeded. Everything inside remains too tidy. No sign of haste, of escape, of abandonment. On the contrary, the feeling is that the people who lived there were simply swallowed up by time in the middle of their routine, as if they had left for a moment to look for something and never returned. But the house kept waiting. The carpet in the living room is clean, but covered in a thin layer of dust that betrays no movement. An old radio rests on the shelf, switched off, but there is something in it, a silent energy, a stored memory. Beside it, an armchair with its back slightly sunken, as if someone was still sitting there. You can almost hear the sound of low breathing coming from the emptiness. In the corner of the room, a fireplace, unlit, but with traces of burnt wood. There are no ashes, just perfectly positioned pieces of coal, as if the fire had been frozen at the exact moment it started. Above the fireplace, a family portrait, but the faces are strangely out of focus. You look closely. They're not smudged or damaged. It's as if they'd never been painted. Bodies are there. Clothes are perfectly outlined, but the faces are gone. And somehow, you're sure you've seen that painting somewhere before. Or maybe you've dreamed about it. You walk down the hallway. The floorboards creak again, louder this time. The house seems to claim your presence, or maybe Just remember the sound of footsteps. There are 3 doors, 2 ajar, 1 closed. The light at the end of the hallway flickers. There's no power, but it flickers. And you feel like the house is somehow pulsing, almost breathing. The first door is a bathroom. The mirror is foggy. You run your hand over it, and your reflection appears, but with a slight delay. Your eyes, for a second, stare back with something that isn't yours. An expression you don't recognize. You look away. Best not to stare for too long. The second door reveals a child's room. The wallpaper with its star and moon designs is still colorful, but the edges are starting to peel. A porcelain doll lies on the bed, her glassy eyes staring out the window. There are fingerprints on her white skin. A child's finger. Or not. A mobile with animal figures spins slowly, without wind. You feel a shiver. There's something there, but it doesn't move. You just watch. The feeling won't go away. You walk back down the hallway and stop in front of the last door. The one that's locked, or should be, because now it's ajar. You're sure it was locked. Absolutely sure. The light inside is dim. A master bedroom, maybe. There's a radio alarm clock set to 3:33. The lamp next to the bed is on, even though there's no power. The bed is perfectly made, but there's a body print on the sheet, like someone's lying there right now. And for a second, you feel the mattress dip slightly. But there's no one. You turn around, and the house breathes with you. It's as if each room is adapting to your presence. Not in a hostile way, but consciously, as if it was waiting, as if it knew that one day you would come, and that now that you're here, maybe you don't need to leave anymore. The pictures on the wall look slightly different than when you came in. The photo on the shelf seems to have gained a new detail, a shadow in the background, subtle in the reflection of the glass. The armchair by the fireplace is a little more sunken than before. You try to open the exit door. It is still ajar, but the wind and rain seem to have stopped. Outside, there is only fog. No sound, no movement. The world has stopped existing, as if you are now on the other side of time. The house remains, firm, intact, like a vault of memories that are not yours, but somehow belong to you. A place that does not store objects, it stores intentions. And you feel that every step you take inside it reactivates something old, forgotten, but never dead. And that's when you realize you've been here before. Not with these eyes, not with this skin, but something inside you recognizes the smell of the coffee, the pattern on the wallpaper, the sound of the door creaking, as if your mind is accessing a floor your body has never visited, but your soul has. And as that thought forms, you hear it. A song, soft, distant, coming from the old radio, playing by itself. A soft melody from the 70s, something between a whisper and a call. You are still in the second room, but the house is already inside you. The sound of the clock hammers against the walls like a memory that doesn't want to be forgotten. 3:33, always, repeatedly, like a musical note that refuses to move on to the next beat. There is no ticking, just attic, eternal, repeated, immobile. Inside that house, time does not move. It bends, it shrinks, it crawls in fear. The air is so thick it feels like old water, and each step is like moving through a warm, viscous dream. Things do not age here. They do not rot. They do not fade. Everything remains, as it should be, but outside of time. A universe where yesterday and now have merged into an eternal almost. Just to your left, on a dark wooden dresser, clothes are folded with almost ceremonial precision. Dress shirts are neatly folded. Socks are lined up by color. Scarves are arranged as if someone intended to wear them that very morning. But there's no sign of wear. No looseness, as if they were folded minutes ago. or decades ago. You touch one of them, and it feels strange, not cold, not warm, not exactly dry. It's as if the garment has no temperature, as if it's an idea of a garment, not an actual garment. And yet, you can smell the faint scent of talcum powder and polished wood. A familiar scent, a scent you might recognize from a place that no longer exists. The curtains on the high windows are tied with old ribbons, wine-colored velvet ribbons, hand-embroidered, faded only at the ends, as if they had been touched by impatient fingers long ago. The light that enters through the window does not seem to come from the sun. It is dull, sad, as if the sky outside were made of dirty cotton. The rain is still there. You hear it, but you don't see it. Drops that hit the roof, but leave no mark. The sound of it passes through the walls like an ancient secret that the house refuses to keep quiet. And for a moment, you have the impression that the rain is coming from inside. In the center of the room, a television, a huge set from the 1970s, with rotary knobs and a curved screen, which glows faintly with a soundless image. A news program, perhaps, or some program, but the faces have no eyes, just dark holes. And the image flickers with an almost hypnotic pattern. You approach. You run your hand behind the set, feeling for the cord. It's unplugged. There's no power, but the TV stays on, showing you something you don't understand, but can't ignore. Something inside you recognizes that program, or rather it recognizes the feeling it provokes. An annoyance, a nostalgia disguised as a threat. You look away and notice the rug. It's floral, hand-embroidered, the kind of thing only a patient grandmother could make over the years. But there's something curious about it. There's no dust on it. None. You run your hand over it, nothing. No dirt, no hair, no fragments of time. Just the clean fabric, as if it had been vacuumed a few moments ago. But who would care for that? You already know the answer. Maybe no something. One. Or something that doesn't care about cleanliness, but about appearance, about permanence. As if each object there had the mission of appearing frozen, even if it was changing inside. Next to the sofa, a small side table. On it, an ashtray with a cigarette still intact, standing there, with the embers lit. But it doesn't burn. It burns eternally, without changing shape. The smoke rises in a spiral, but it doesn't dissipate. It stays there, spinning, dancing, as if it were watching you too. You smell the smoke, woody and sweet, mixed with something you can't identify. Something chemical, perhaps, or too old. And as much as you want to look away, your attention returns to the spiral. It holds. It pulls. It party. The paintings on the walls show landscapes you recognize. A train station, a cloudy beach, an abandoned park. All the places seem familiar, but not because you've visited them before, but because you've dreamed about them. They are images that live in some forgotten part of your memory. The painting of the station has a peculiarity. In the lower corner, there is a small silhouette. Someone standing on the platform. You swear it wasn't there before, but it is there now, and it's looking at you from inside the painting, from inside the scene, and suddenly, a knock. Just one, coming from the ground, as if someone down below had dropped something, or hit the ceiling with a broom handle. But you are on the highest floor. There is no one above. In the next room, the closet is ajar. You feel like you shouldn't look, but you do anyway. Inside, dresses hang on, wooden hangers, and on the floor, shoes are lined up, all facing the door, as if they're waiting to be worn. But there's something wrong with them. The leather is too shiny. The laces are tied, but they don't have ends, as if they're just for show. And then, deep in the closet, among the clothes, something moves, a fold, a breath. But when you get closer Everything stops. Just silence. Just smell. Just that clock. Showing 3:33. You return to the living room. And now you notice that the hands on the wall clock are moving, but backwards. Time is moving backwards. Every second seems to pull you inwards. Every minute reminds you of something you haven't experienced yet. And meanwhile, the TV changes. Channels by itself. No sound. No button. No logic. Now it shows images of a staircase. Maybe the one in the elevator. But with one difference. There's someone going down. Slowly. A shadow without a face. A body without a name. And then, black. Screen. The set turns off. You turn around. And the light from the window has changed tone. Now, it looks like late afternoon. But you didn't stay that long. The house is shaping you, making you lose track of time, of logic, of yourself. Every object around you pulses with a memory you haven't lived, but feel as your own. The refrigerator is closed, but you hear a sound coming from inside it, as if something is whispering. A lullaby. An incomplete sentence. You lean against the door and feel a slight warmth. Incoherent, as if it weren't turned on, but alive. And in that moment, the clock starts over. 3:33. Again. 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 You no longer know if it is day or night. If the world outside exists. The house seems to laugh softly, as if it knows it is winning. That you are beginning to forget the way back. And yet, you continue. Because some part of you wants to know more. Because this house, this place outside of time, has something of yours. Something you have lost. Or that you have always had, but never understood. Now, take a deep breath. Because it's not over yet. And time, inside, hasn't decided yet if it's going to let you go. The footsteps are light, but they echo as if each floorboard holds a living memory. There is no rush in them. They are almost like your own. As if you were following someone or being followed. But there is no shadow, no body, no face. Just the feeling that the house breathes along with you. As if somewhere behind the wall, someone had their eyes closed, just listening. You enter the room again, and something has changed. You don't know what. Everything is still there. The worn velvet sofa, the table with the ashtray, the television off. But there is something new. A smell, a whisper, a shift in the air that makes you turn your head, certain that something has just left there. On the couch, a doll. It wasn't there before. Reddish wool hair, a dress with blue ruffles and tiny, mother of pearl buttons. She sits with her head tilted to the side, and her eyes stitched with black thread seem to follow you. Her hand hangs slightly off the couch, as if it had been left there by a child in a hurry. Next to the doll, a crumpled bow, pale pink, smelling of talcum powder, and a piece of tape with a name written on it in pen. But the name is smudged, and the ink looks so fresh. You'd swear it was written just now. The table in the living room is scattered with papers, letters, handwritten notes in elegant, looping script. You pick up one of the letters, and it's partially open. It's no ordinary envelope. It's one of those folded in four, like secrets exchanged in the school hallway. The first sentence is a confession. I don't know if you'll forgive me, but I had to go. The rest is heavily crossed out. Crossed out as if someone wanted to erase a pain that the ink couldn't contain. But there, in the bottom corner of the page, is a word scribbled again. Small, almost a whisper written. I'm still here. You turn the letter over, and for a moment, you're sure it's warm. Not like paper that's just come out of the printer, but like it's been held in a hand for a few seconds. You bring the paper to your face. It smells like old perfume, the kind that's too sweet, reminiscent of glass lipsticks and oval framed mirrors, And then, very subtly, you hear a laugh. Coming from the bedroom. Childish. Just one. Faint, as if it's escaped time. As if the echo of a memory has decided to reappear, just to remind you that it never went away. In the kitchen, the smell is different. Garlic and bay leaves. You follow. A pot is on the stove. Aluminum lid, wooden handle. The handle is slightly turned to the side, and the contents inside still look damp. Rice with bits of something you don't recognize. But the detail that chills your spine is the steam. There is no fire, but there is steam, and it rises slowly in a spiral like cigarette smoke, as if someone had lit the fire dot now. The wall next to it has fingerprints, not dirty, just impressions in the dust, as if a small hand had rested there. The height of the mark indicates a child, and that matches the doll and the bow and the laughter. You open the cupboard above the sink. The dishes are perfectly stacked, but on the second floor of the cupboard, there is an overturned glass. Just one, and inside it, a strand of hair, blonde, thin, almost translucent. You feel something vibrate inside your chest. A presence, a glaring absence, as if everything there had been left behind in a hurry, but with intention, because no one locks a house, leaving lunch ready. No one forgets open letters. No one abandons their childhood on the couch, unless they had no choice. You return to the room, and now you notice something else. A cushion on the floor with a knee, mark still sunken in. Next to it, a broken colored pencil, dark blue. The tip is still warm, and next to the pencil, a piece of paper with a child's drawing on it, a staircase, an elevator, and something inside, a figure in the center of the cabin. The child drew it with shaky lines, but with intention. And at the bottom of the paper, what appears to be a sentence. The man at the doors never smiles. You swallow hard, and you don't understand why. But this sentence seems like it was made for you. Further down the narrow hallway that leads to the bathroom, there are marks on the floor, as if someone had dragged a blanket across it, and the smell here changes. It gets thicker, sweeter, almost suffocating. You push open the bathroom door. It creaks. The light doesn't work, but there's something on the sink, a still damp toothbrush, and a towel hanging down, dripping. Each drop that hits the floor makes an exaggeratedly loud sound, as if the silence were multiplying everything. 1, 2, 3 drops. Then nothing. You close your eyes for a second and listen to the breathing, low, coming from behind you. But when you turn around, there is nothing. Just the hallway. Just the elongated shadow of yourself. But the shadow is wrong. It has a subtle movement that you didn't make, a delay, a reflection that is alive. Is the house copying you, or remembering you before you even existed? You don't know, but you know that the silence here is a language. It speaks, it keeps, it writes between the lines. And then, once more, the sound. Footsteps, slow, shuffled, upstairs. Or was it in the basement? But this house has no stairs other than the one. You came down, or does it? The walls seem to move subtly, as if the structure of the house were alive. There is no wind, but the curtains sway. And when you look at the window, someone was there. Only now they are not. But they have left a trace. The mark of a hand on the glass. Small, but recent. You place your hand on the mark. It is cold. Colder than the glass. And you feel a vibration. The round mark on the wood seemed to have been burned not by fire, but by memory. The wood, still warm to the touch, revealed that this was not just a meeting point. It was an anchor. as if the room needed this to keep from disappearing forever, or worse, to keep from breaking free. But there was a subtle and undeniable detail. Something inside had already responded. The shadow that moved, the door that groaned on its own, the dry knocks, and now ... absolute silence. No longer the silence of the house, but the silence inside. The kind of silence that only happens when someone instinctively holds their breath, when the body tries to become invisible. And at that moment, the house, which seemed to be just witnessing, begins to participate. A soft creak spreads across the ceiling, like footsteps, but not wooden ones. It is the sound of something passing between the lining and the roof, heavy and slow, as if it were crawling above you, trying to find the exact point from which to observe without being seen. You do not move, your eyes fixed on the crack in the door, now with an almost imperceptible line of even denser darkness which extends to your feet. A shadow that does not belong to anything visible, an outline of absence. But then the house does something it hasn't done before. It breathes along with you. The air wavers, and the nearest light bulb flickers. It doesn't go out. It just flickers, as if trying to decide whether to keep it on, or whether it would be safer to leave you in the dark. The entire hallway seems to waver. The slightly crooked pictures on the walls turn imperceptibly to the side, as if trying to hear better. Every detail seems to lean toward the room, as if everything is waiting. The doorknob turns on its own, but it only makes a click, as if testing it, as if it were feeling if there is still resistance on the other side. But you know, it wants to open, not for you, but in spite of you. Something inside you is tired of waiting. The doorknob turns once more, this time with more conviction, but it stops. It stays there, static, and at that moment, you hear the most challenging sound of all. Nothing. The silence is now offensive. It imposes itself like a restrained scream. And that's when, for the first time, the ground doesn't creak beneath your feet, but behind them, a step, delicate, precisely where you were seconds before. You turn your body with a restrained impulse, and you see nothing. But the picture you had straightened is now crooked again to the other side, and on its fogged glass, a mark, as if something or someone had pressed the palm of their hand against it. From the inside, the wind that had been gently knocking on the door now blows from the other side, and it carries a smell. It's not musty or dusty. It's sweet, inexplicably sweet, an artificial smell, like an old perfume, feminine, but worn out, something that tried to be eternal and failed. And then, before you have time to think, something slips under the door. A letter, yellowed, carefully folded, no sender, no date. Just 3 words on the front, handwritten, "I still listen." You don't touch it, but it pulses, as if it contained a heart. The paper vibrates slightly on the floor, following the rhythm of a slow breathing that now seems to dominate the room. And the letter moves on its own, just a few centimeters, as if it wanted to be read, as if it wanted to tell something that still lives there, stuck in the throat of time. But the light changes. It doesn't flicker. It changes. The fluorescent bulb's hue is no longer white. It turns an antique yellow, as if the entire house has gone back in time. The details around the door change. The wallpaper, once worn, now reveals colors. The dust on the floor settles. And for a brief moment, it's as if you're in 1971. On the other side of the door, voices. Soft, not clear, but real. A muffled laugh. The clink of a spoon against a cup. A radio playing a distant song from another time. Everything happens there, but it seems not to notice its presence. It is like watching an echo living on its own. a fragment of the past refusing to die. And a woman's voice whispers something too close to the door, a whisper that makes even the furniture shiver. You're too late. The letter on the floor opens, without touch, slowly, and the words inside are not written. They are marked, as if they had been forcibly engraved by fingernail or metal. And what is there? Written repeatedly, line after line, in desperate handwriting is, do not open, do not open, do not open, do not open, do not open. And in the center of the page, a last sentence, different from the others. He's still there. The door shudders, as if someone were leaning against it hard, but with no intention of entering, just to remind them that they are there. And what was once a whisper becomes a deeper sound, a muffled moan, a silent plea, not for help, but for a witness. You sense something is about to happen, that the room will not be content to be ignored. It has waited too long, and now it wants to show itself. The doorknob turns slowly, one more time, and now it completes the turn. A sharp click, the lock gives way, the house holds its breath, and the floor stops creaking. The door starts to open, slowly, and everything that exists after it is about to be seen. You walk to the window. The hallway behind you seems quieter than ever. The distant sound of ancient laughter echoes in the air, a childish laughter mixed with adult voices, as if a fragment of ancient life insisted on remaining within your hearing range. The glass in front of you is fogged up, but you still perceive what is outside. The urban landscape stretches out before you. Modern streetlights blink in a predictable pattern, cars speed by, a traffic light changes color, a motorcycle speeds by. People walk in a hurry, cell phones in hand, backpacks on their backs, modern life in frenetic motion. But you feel, viscerally, that this world is separated from you, as if an invisible membrane crossed the window, delimiting two realities, one beating, noisy, electric, and the other suspended, breathing in slow motion. The narration whispers, softly, outside the world rushes. Here, time sleeps. And suddenly, you realize that inside there is no time. Not in the sense that the outside world knows. Time inside there is fluid, dense, a spiral that involves the present, the past, and perhaps a future that does not wish to be revealed. You place your hand on the glass. The cold of the window is intense, but it does not connect you to the other side. It only intensifies the feeling of separation. The raindrops run down, but their movement is abnormally slow, as if each particle of water were trapped in a liquid that defies the laws of physics. Rats and people. Time outside waits for no one. Here, the rain runs down the window unhurriedly. Each drop is a petrified second. On this side, the garden below the window, in the same frozen scene, displays a flower bed, wilted, stopped in the middle of the curve of life. An empty park bench, a bicycle leaning against a railing, a cat sitting, motionless, staring into space. Everything is motionless. Everything is soundless, except for the laughter. And this laughter, it has no direction. It floats. It does not dissipate. It resonates between invisible walls, reaching your ears with echoes that remind you of sunny afternoons, but without light, just echoes without a source. And you realize that no matter how much the world outside advances, inside, it is a capsule of memories, a bubble of frozen existences. You look back into the room, staring at the dimly flickering bulb. The distant hum of the fluorescent lights continues, but now you don't associate it with the light that never goes out. You feel like this room is suspended in the void, trapped between past and present, between laughter and screams, between the warmth of life and the cold of absence. And the window is the portal, a door that allows you to see, but not to. Pass through. A barrier that protects or isolates. No one crosses that glass block. No one enters. And no one leaves. The laughter continues, changing in tone, sometimes childish, sometimes adult, sometimes masculine, sometimes feminine, as if several people were close together, as if several layers of time were stacked on top of each other, all whispering stories that you can't decode. Your heart tightens. You feel that each sound is a spark of life that insists on existing in that space that the logic of the clocks ignores. You want to run outside, go through the glass, talk, shout that you are there, that you exist. But it's useless. The only world that exists there is that still place. And then a body appears behind the window, not from the other side, but from this side. A shadow silhouetted against the glass. It is not reflected on your forehead. There is no modern light. There is an ancient presence, a figure of a woman, a child, perhaps someone who belongs to the frozen time of the house. She places her hand on the window pane right in front of yours. Your fingers touch. Your palms touch, but separated by the glass. You feel an emotional discharge. The impression that someone from the other world, the still world, wants to tell you something. Something urgent. The laughter stops for a moment, as if the window were silent in reverence. And the figure leans in. Its lips move in a mute motion. And then, the lamp finally goes out. Inside because outside, nothing changes. The traffic light keeps changing colors. Cars speed up, people march. But inside, darkness consumes everything. The window is a black rectangle now, but the hand remains, hovering in the void. And you sense that there is more than memories. There is intention. There is urgency. There is a trapped scream. You try to scream too, but there is no voice. And in the absolute silence, the window becomes a mirror. The reflection shows you, but something is wrong. Your eyes are sunken. Your face looks ancient, as if in that still world, time has shaped your image, and the shadow smiles at you. A sad smile, almost of relief. And then, the rain stops. The scratching on the glass fades. The image outside moves. The modern world continues. The laughter returns more distant, as if coming from somewhere even further away. And the window returns to being just glass. You step back. You take a step back. The room absorbs you again. The lamp flickers and the buzzing returns. You feel that something has changed your reflection, the window, the darkness, and that there is now a fissure inside you between two times. And one question remains. Are you now sleeping out of time forever? The silence is absolute, so heavy that it presses on the chest. No hum, no breathing, no raindrops. Only the emptiness that remains when everything becomes static. It is in the midst of this nothingness that he is, the thing that watches. He knows now that this place is inhabited by something, but it has no form. It has no body. It is presence, pure attention, something that breathes in the recesses of silence, that exists in the space between one blink and the next. He feels its eyes, even without seeing them. Something watches him with contained curiosity and with fear. There is strength in that, and he is vulnerable. He moves slowly. Each step echoes, but without sound. The floor holds the echo of his body. And suddenly the mirror, the one hanging on the wall opposite the window, fogs up, not from heat or humidity. It just fogs up, as if something wants to hide behind it. He sees his reflection, out of focus, ripple in the glass. The fog rises, seeps over the edge, and the reflection seems to smile, but it's not his. It's something else, an indistinct figure, but with watchful eyes. Stepping back seems natural, But he realizes it wasn't the mirror that fogged up. It was someone on the other side. Or something. I could swear a breath formed there. Staring. At the painting on the right, he realizes that it had been straight, but now it is tilted at an uncomfortable angle. The frame is worn, the paint old, but the gleam in the eyes of the figure, a man in a suit with a hard expression, seems to have awakened. The pupils roll. Or maybe it's the brain trying to make sense of what it doesn't understand. The image crosses his eyes. A subtle movement, imperceptible, but there. He reaches out to align the painting back to the wall. The touch makes the object tremble, and a whisper escapes from nowhere. As soft as the wind before a storm, to observe is different from to be seen. The sound disappears as quickly as it came, but it lingers. It lingers in the air, and the painting is still crooked, with the figure looking directly at him. A shiver. In the mirror, the eyes move again, and in the reflection, the body bends, as if someone were behind it. The chair next to the mirror rocks. No current, no wind. It just sways, and then stops. At that moment, a breath is heard. Low, almost imperceptible. He thinks it's his, but his chest is still. That air isn't his. It comes from the room. It envelops the space between him and the chair. His entire body contracts. The presence approaches. It doesn't walk. It doesn't move. Like someone else, it runs down the back of his neck, as if sliding through the strands of his hair, and it remains watching. The silence is broken again by the same whisper. You are where I dwell. The voice could have come from the ceiling, the wall, the mirror. Maybe from within his own mind. He tries to answer, but there is no voice. The void swallows all sound. He blinks, and the painting fades. The frame darkens. The mirror, now clean, reflects only the hallway, as if the room were empty. But he is still there. The chair sinks. Then it returns. A presence. Invisible. Solid. Without outline. The floor groans without footsteps. The ceiling creaks without. Wind. The house seems suspended between one time and another, between a gaze and an absence. The voice comes again, clearer, almost sweet, without eyes, without body, but with the power to see you. The painting shakes. The figure flickers. The chair rocks again. The breathing is closer. The wind comes from nowhere, subtle, cold, but the air is still. The mirror reveals the full reflection, the body standing there. The eyes are right, the body aligned, but something is between the image and reality. Something you observe, learn, absorb. He feels like he's been pierced, not by pain, but by attention. A kind of examination that isn't physical. It's intimate. It's as if the thing is leafing through his memories, his feelings, his doubts. Every part of him feels open, and yet trapped. The room doesn't allow escape. The walls don't recede. The atmosphere doesn't change. But he knows. From that moment on, he's no longer alone inside himself. The figure in the painting smiles. For the first time, but it is not comfort. It is recognition. The mirror cracks silently. A crack cuts across the reflection like a scar. But the face remains, fixed, empty, watched, and the voice, for the last time, whispers, "Now, I see you inside too." The light flickers. The room remains. The chair stops. The painting returns to its place. The mirror shatters only on the inside. And the air still watches. He blinks, but he doesn't know if it was a blink or an awakening. The ground is still beneath his feet, but you no longer feel firm. The silence is different. Now, it's not the same as the one that greeted him when he arrived. It's hollower, as if everything around him had been emptied, but not of him, but of something. he left behind. The house is still there, even though the door is gone, even though the hallway has become nothing, even though the mirrors no longer show any reflection. He tries to remember how it all began, the sound of the elevator, the rain, floor 3, and now everything seems to echo inside him like a poorly remembered dream. But there's something different about this awakening, an absence in the form of presence, a longing for something he didn't experience, or lived and forgot, or dreamed so strongly that his body carried the marks to this side. His eyes wander over what's left around him, fragments, a cracked portrait, a stained cup, the smell of an old perfume that belongs to no one. And then comes the question, silent, cruel, persistent. If no one lives there, why does he miss that place? Maybe it's not just a house. Maybe it's not just a floor. Maybe it's a part of yourself that found shelter in something it shouldn't have and now refuses to let go. Maybe it's a piece of memory from a life you don't remember living, or from a time when I believed the world was slower, more sensitive, more alive or dead. It doesn't matter, because it's no longer about time or space, but about sensation, about mark, about presence. He takes a deep breath. He closes his eyes, and in this gesture there is surrender, the certainty that even without understanding, something was understood. Even without seeing, something was seen. Even without living, something was felt. And maybe that is what matters. Maybe that is what the elevator was trying to show. Floors are not places. They are parts, doors that open inwards. And now, there is no more fear. There is no more rush. There is no more searching. Just a slight tiredness and peace. The mystery is behind you, but peace remains with you. Now rest. The elevator is taking you back. Close your eyes and listen to the rain outside.